Hello, Mantric fans. Welcome to another episode of our podcast.
I like that. That's good.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm JJ.
And we're going to start by talking about weird news stories today. I don't usually host this.
No, I was just gonna let you go. I wanted to see what would happen.
I don't really know. I've never tried it.
I liked it. I think you probably do it better than me.
I don't know
do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll go
All right.
first.
What do you got?
All right, so I feel like my news stories are a little different than what I normally come with those really weird stories where you're like, oh my gosh,
murder,
it's horrifying
things, and yeah.
So actually, both of mine today are kind of sciencey, and
Ooh, I love it.
So a little bit more real.
I have one sciencey one and one dumb, ridiculous one.
So my article, actually, my first article comes from CNN, and it's scientists discovered dark oxygen being produced more than 13,000 feet below the ocean's surface.
I'm very drawn in by the phrase dark oxygen. I need to know more.
So apparently, observed in 2013 aboard a vessel in a remote part of the Pacific Ocean was a mysterious phenomenon. So scientist Andrew Sweetman, with his monitoring equipment and team, found that there were readings shown that oxygen was being made on the seabed about 4,000 meters or 13,000 feet below surface, where no light can penetrate. So this happened on 3 subsequent voyages to a region known as the Clarion-Clipperton Zone. So he was there with the students. He was they were doing
cool.
observation, and they had these sensors that were picking up stuff
the
under
little robots that go down
Yeah,
there.
and he was like, we're picking up some strange readings, so I told my students, just put the sensors back in the box. We're going to ship them back to the manufacturer. They're giving us gibberish nonsense. This can't be true.
Oh, I love that.
So he's a professor at the Scottish Association for Marine Science, and he's the lead of the institution's seafloor ecology and biogeochemistry unit. And he said,
that 5 times fast.
And every single one of their sensors that they sent to return came back, and the manufacturer said, no, they're working. They're calibrated.
Oh.
So apparently photosynthetic organisms such as plants, plankton, and algae use sunlight to produce oxygen that cycles in the ocean's depths. But it is not shown that oxygen is produced by the organisms that live there. So they've never seen any evidence of that. So now they're kind of doing this research and challenging the assumption, thinking that it's possible that oxygen can be produced without photosynthesis. So they're doing this research, and they're finding that there's oxygen being created
down there
way down under
air.
In the bottom of the ocean. Is crazy.
Atlantis is real.
Oh my gosh. So it says this study, published in the Journal of Nature Geoscience, demonstrates how much is still unknown about the ocean depths and underscores what's at stake in the push to exploit the ocean floor for rare minerals and metals. So there's another source of oxygen on the planet other than photosynthesis, and that could, those implications could help unravel the origins of life. I just think it's kind of cool. But it says Sweetman first made the unexpected observation that dark oxygen was being produced while assessing an area that's earmarked for mining potato-sized polymetallic nodules. So these this research that they were doing was to try to find out what causes metals to precipitate out of the water and around different things on the ocean seafloor. So they were finding metals, and they were mining stuff.
Interesting. Yeah.
So they're using the metals and stuff that they find for use in solar panel. It's apparently they're used in nodules for different types of electronics, like solar panels, electric car batteries. Yeah. So they were doing some sort of mining, deep sea mining and stuff. And on their way through doing that, this is when they discovered this underwater oxygen that was being discovered. So the article is super in depth and long, and there's a lot of explanation. The idea this dark oxygen sounds so mysterious and it
just means oxygen made without plants.
Yeah.
Which is really a big deal. Because think about it in the complete reverse. If you can make it at the bottom of the ocean, can you make it in space?
Yeah.
Right?
Is it possible to do in other areas?
Yeah, that would be a huge deal. If you don't need photosynthesis, because all the oxygen we know of that's not made in a lab or whatever comes from plant life. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so interesting. I like that.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just interesting to
hooks my interest.
Right? I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting thing. I thought it was an interesting article because it's a little bit more sciencey than I usually bring, but actual,
it's still crazy.
Yeah. It's, we're still learning, like it said, so much is unknown about the ocean.
That's one of my favorite things. It's like we've
explored so much and yet so little.
So tiny little.
Yep.
Yeah, the ocean is like just vast, unmarked, and that makes it really fun to me. I'm like, cool, there's still stuff to do,
Yep.
So your sciencey story leads into my sciencey story.
Okay.
Now, again, this is something that happened a long time ago. I saw a video and I was like, is this real? Because there's so much fake stuff in the world now. And I was like, is this real? Then I went and looked it up and it is real. And it was just crazy. So Galen Windsor, a nuclear physicist of renown, worked at and helped design nuclear power plants all over America. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different states he helped build nuclear reactors in.
Okay.
But among his positions of expertise, he was in charge of measuring and controlling the nuclear fuel inventory and storage. Right? So that was his job. He worked with nuclear energy and nuclear power plants and specifically the waste, the storage and use of the waste product, right? Okay. He ate some of it on camera to show that it is not as dangerous as people think it is. And
what?
I watched the videos from 1980s.
Did he immediately turn into the Joker?
No, that's what's amazing.
My gosh.
He's fine.
What?
So, Galen Windsor has traveled and lectured all over America, spoken on national talk radio, and made several videos exposing the misunderstood issues of nuclear radiation. He shows that the fear of radiation has been exaggerated to scare people, so a few powerful people can maintain control of the world's most valuable power resource. So he was filmed in 1986. You can watch him lick a pile of highly radioactive uranium off the palm of his hand. Like he holds the radioactive uranium in his hand and then he licks it. Like
he immediately starts glowing fluorescent green.
So that's what movies portray. I know. Right? Like that's how it works. It's like
I don't know.
The terrorists and they like pull out those little glowing like glow sticks kind of a thing and they're pulling it out and there's like smoke and then they very carefully wearing a hazmat suit put it in. This guy's just out here licking uranium off his hand. He ate it. The guy also drank reactor cooling pool water for fun. He liked to go swimming in the pool to relax.
He's got to be dead of cancer now.
Not at all. He lived to be 86 and died of Parkinson's. That's what's crazy. Now, some people said he died of cancer. They were like, of course he died of leukemia. But then other people said, nope, that is not how he died.
Oh my gosh,
he
that's
lived
so bizarre.
Well into his late 80s, right?
Wow.
Let's see. He spiked his basement flooring in his own home with enough radioactive material to send a Geiger counter reading off the scale to disprove the fear-mongering surrounding radon at the time. So here's my guess. I think the radioactive materials are very dangerous. We know they cause cancer. We know that is real, like Chernobyl and all this kind of stuff. But I think like early movies like the Godzilla, they took this idea and they ran with it, and then Hollywood loved it so much that it went way out of proportion. And he's like, actually... So he surmises the regulations and fear-mongering that surround radioactive material are in place to prevent widespread adoption of nuclear power. He's like, they don't want to use this power, but this power is actually cleaner and healthier and safer than people think it is. The waste can actually be turned into a safe power source through thermionic, I don't know how to say it, thermionic conversion, which is how U.S. submarine navigation network was powered. The heat that it also gives off can also safely heat homes. He's like, this waste is worth a lot of money, and some people know that, and so they scared everybody away from it by, painting different nuclear toxic...
conspiracy theory.
Yeah, it feels like it, doesn't it? So anyways, he said, at its core, federal controls over nuclear power is about maintaining power and control over the masses through denial of self-sufficient power sources. So he has this whole tirade that's like, it's the government trying to keep you afraid, and let me prove it to you. Lick.
Nope. I will not be licking the uranium.
Oh my gosh. Well, so he does sound a little conspiracy theory. He says 3 Mile Island was an intentionally created disaster, and he's like, no, this kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. And it's just fascinating. But
I don't know what I think about that, and I don't want to see the video of the guy licking his hand.
it's just and that's what's really funny about it is that it really isn't a big deal. It's a guy in a suit. He kind of looks like my grandpa, right? Like it's a video from the 80s. He's got like the thick glasses or whatever, and he's just got a little thing in his hand. You can't even see it that well because it's a little fuzzy, and he just licks it. And it's like, are you kidding me right now? And he's like, this is what this is, and this is blah, blah, blah. And he's just talking to the camera, and then he just licks it. And it's like far away.
So
it's
you're
like,
saying it's not deadlier than drinking a glass of water in Flint. It's terrifying.
Or a Monster Energy drink.
Thanks, U.S. government. Looking out for us always.
I don't know. I think it's fascinating. And he's like, he made it his mission. He died in 2008. But so he licked this radioactive stuff and then lived for another 30 years. Right? 20 years? 98, 96. Yeah, another 22 years after licking it. And didn't die from that. He died from something else. And it's like, what? Like, that's just
so crazy.
It
and
is.
Gross. And what?
You know what it reminds me of is the silencer, the gun silencer theory. Have you ever seen this?
Yeah.
Right? Like in movies, they're like little pew pew.
Yep. Make
like,
it seem like it's like absolutely silent.
And then in the real world, silencers are not at all like that. They don't make the sound go away. They can kind of mess with the sound, but they're nothing like that at all. But Hollywood loves silencers. They're so convenient to have your guy sneak around and go pew pew, you know. And so it's like, no, we want to accept that. And so that's what we do, you know?
Suspension of belief. Yeah.
Well, and it's just like, if it's convenient for storytelling, like glowing rods of dangerous radioactive material, and it's like, that's not actually what it's like. I put it in my home. I drink this stuff.
I warm myself up by the fire at night around it. I've been drinking this stuff for years.
I do think, like, yeah, no, there's definitely danger and cancer and radiation and like, but it was a fascinating, this is how I'm going to prove to you it's not as dangerous as you think.
Wow.
I'll eat it.
Interesting.
Yep.
Literally, like, homes, I mean, that's what, like, you can have like a special inspector come inspect your home for radon. Like, that was one of the options when we moved in. Like,
he put it in his house on purpose to show people, oh yeah, if your Geiger counter comes into this house, it'll go off the charts. It's fine. And it's like, wait, are you what?
But
no.
Yet I could have paid an inspector an extra $800 to come check my home for radon because it's leaching off out of the atmosphere. Like, what? I just have so many questions.
A pile of highly radioactive uranium off the palm of his hand.
No, thank you.
And he lights a chunk of plutonium into a shower of flaming dust.
Are you sure he didn't play the Joker in one of the Batman movies? Like, this is... I have so many questions. They disappeared.
I just think it's so funny that was your jokey reaction. But that's what all of us think. That's definitely what I think.
I just have so many questions.
When I saw the video the first time, I was like, no, come on. It's got to be fake. That's why I had to go look it up, because I was like, it's fake.
This is
obviously.
a segue into your conspiracy theory topic for later, right?
I'm very excited to talk about conspiracy theories later, because it fits so perfectly.
So funny.
All right, you ready for Sponsor Your Life?
I am.
All right, what do you got?
Yeah, so actually, just today, I took the boys out to Calvin University. I almost said Calvin College.
Yeah.
They wanted to go on a nature walk. They were like,
yes.
we want to do this nature scavenger hunt that we got when we went to the park for ice cream the other night.
Perfect.
So they just wanted to go for a walk, try and find some stuff outside. And I was like, sure, where can we go? And then I was thinking about it. And I was like, it's been a minute, but I'm pretty sure Calvin has some trails. And so we went to the nature center there, and they walked around some paths. We have so many mosquito bites, but...
remember Calvin, though?
Yes. Actually, it was crazy because we turned, and then Liam goes, oh, I'm so excited. We've never actually turned here before. And I was like, it's not that exciting. It's just a... And then they had all sorts of questions about when Mommy and Daddy met, and it was so cute.
That is.
Yeah. So,
Did
anyways,
you, take him on a tour? Or?
No, we just drove, across campus and went under the overpass there, and then to the nature center. But
right.
Yeah, they had a good time. We walked through the trails a little bit. They got a chance to go inside the nature center. They looked at some of the animals that are in the nature center, like there's a turtle and there's some frogs and stuff, and they had a good time with that. But yeah, it was good. It was really nice to just like walk around outside. It's a beautiful place, honestly. Yeah. Like, it's a really nice little set of trails. I wish that I used to love
it back in the day.
Oh yeah.
I didn't go out there very often, but when I did, I always enjoyed it.
It's beautiful. Yeah. I don't recommend going like on a day like today where it's like a little damp and wet. There was so so many mosquitoes. Like we were getting, I felt so bad for the student workers who were like helping to like do work like on the paths and stuff. Like they were very clearly like getting it all fixed up, but there were so many mosquitoes. Like there was one time like we went through this one area and I just looked at the boys and I was like, just keep moving, don't stop, because they were like all over us. But it was so fun. Like the kids were excited. We saw a skunk and then they found tons of tiny baby frogs hopping everywhere. And it is so hard to tell 4 little boys not to stop and catch every frog they find. So I had to keep reminding them, remember, they have to stay here. This is their natural habitat.
We're not taking them home.
But it was really fun. We had a good time. And I did appreciate it. We were there for like an hour and walking around, and it was fun. So, yeah, that was sponsor of my life.
That's a great sponsor. I love it. In the spirit of things that we've done recently, I'm going to bring up the alphabet date again.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we've been on break from that. We've had a lot of things that are falling on date night, and they've been fun things. Like we went to a wedding or whatever, but we haven't done much of our alphabet date.
Right.
So we went out to Grand Haven, and it has been so long since we have hung out in that town, and I loved it. Like
it was fun
because when we first started dating, no kids, we would like go visit your folks, and we would go downtown Grand Haven all the time. We'd hit the restaurants, hit the ice cream, the candy place, the stores, and like, even when we had 1 or 2 kids, we would do that regularly. But it's been years.
It has been. I don't think the last time we went I think the last time I went like downtown Grand Haven was maybe 2019. It's been so long. So
like to get there, and it's such a cute town. If you've never been to Grand Haven, it's very touristy. There's like a huge park in the beach, state park or whatever. And so lots of people in town just for that. But there was live music. It was a cover band. They played a lot of songs we knew and we liked. Some of them were a little outside of the range of the singer, but
they were having some time. But it was, I don't know, it was
fun though.
It is fun to kind of see like Grand Haven. I don't know, like growing up there, I never really had an appreciation for it as much. But now going back, like there are some really nice places down there now. Like, and as an adult, obviously you can have a chance to enjoy it in a different way than you did when you were a kid.
Totally.
But there's some cool stuff downtown now, and there's some cool events. Awesome. Like, obviously, plug for anyone who's listening, it will be Coast Guard Festival coming up this week.
Yeah,
so
is it next week?
Coast Guard Festival starts on Saturday and runs through next Saturday. So
it starts tomorrow for those listening on Friday.
That's true. Yeah. So you'll go ahead, check out Grand Haven. It's so much fun. And we had
restaurants downtown. We got sandwich from a place.
I love the Toasted Pickle. It's a great place. For
we didn't even
cheese.
get a whole meal. We just got a sandwich.
Nope,
like,
just
it was
sandwiches.
Just a little thing, and then we got some ice cream and went for a walk down the pier. It was such a perfect date.
It was a gorgeous night for a pier walk because it was cool but not too hot, but it wasn't like windy. Like it was actually really calm.
It wasn't cold, but it wasn't scorching either.
Yeah, it was a nice night. So
it was wonderful. So
can't beat that.
Major shout out to Grand Haven and all their wonderful downtown amenities. A very cool place and definitely a sponsor of my life today. All right, are you ready for some conspiracy theories?
I am. Actually, these were interesting to read through.
All right, so let me preface it a little bit. So in the last couple of weeks, some major events have happened in our world, and there have been conspiracy theories about those major events. And honestly, it's been such a thing. I would say, for me, it was kind of COVID. During COVID, there were lots of conspiracy theories that were like lots of people I knew kind of fell off the cliff into conspiracy theory world. But then more recently, so Trump was shot a couple of weeks ago, and there were like the day of so many conspiracy theories about like it was staged and it was planned and all this stuff, and it was like, well, how else did they get the camera right there and all this stuff? And it's like, and then I saw a lot of people pushing back, being like, guys, you're embarrassing yourself, it's obviously not a conspiracy theory. But then a week later or whatever, Biden drops out of the race, the election race. And then there was, because he did it via a letter, so nobody saw him. And it was like, he will address the nation later this week. And it was one of those things where it was like, is he tied up in a chair right now? Like, did somebody...
Is he being held at gunpoint?
Yeah, like, why can't we see Biden right now? What's happening? So many goofy conspiracy theories, which have been put to rest. He did have a press conference thing. I think people saw him or something. I think that was even tonight. But like,
it shows how much I know.
Well, most of them are silly, right? And they're just ridiculous. But it got me thinking about, we're just so gullible these days. And I think more and more as we go, like we are, I think, getting worse at finding truth, and we need to be getting a lot better because it is so much easier to hide the truth nowadays. Do you remember that news story about the guy who got his principal fired by making a fake AI generated audio, like voicemail of him saying something horrible
awful
things? It's like racist or something.
Yeah.
And then he was like, and he got the guy fired, but then he found out it was a fake recording, and the guy was like, I never said any of that stuff, and it turns out he didn't. And it's like, we need to get better at discerning, and we're getting worse. So in the spirit of all of that, that's kind of the context of where this comes from. Our hot topic today is 20 of the best conspiracy theories.
Yes.
You want to dive in with us?
Yes. You want me to read these?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll just go through. We don't have to go through them all, but just give us some of them.
So the first one is the 9/11 conspiracies, which I've actually heard of for years.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
I remember. I have actually people that I was surprised that believed conspiracy theories. I was like, wait, what? So apparently there are some people, or many people, that believe that 9/11 was a conspiracy. So apparently what happened at the World Trade Center and the Pentagon involved insider knowledge by President George Bush, Vice President Dick Cheney, and top Bush advisors. So some believe that because jet fuel can't melt steel beams, the Twin Towers must have been brought down by controlled demolition. So apparently there was a documentary that debunked these claims. Apparently it's quite possible for columns to hold up skyscrapers to fail catastrophically when they're exposed to fires burning on multiple floors. So there's apparently just a lot of conspiracies around that, and a lot of people think that it was all staged. So
I do want to give some context. So this article comes from livescience.com, written by Karen Douglas. She's a PhD, professor of social psychology at the University of Kent in the UK. Her research focuses on antecedents and consequences of belief in conspiracy theories. So she's coming from a very educated and informed place on these topics. But yeah, I have heard the 9/11 stuff, but I've never given it any credence. It's like, oh no, that's silly.
Well, I mean, I guess I think that's doing a bit of a disservice to the people who died in 9/11.
Oh my gosh. And people they get really mad because it's disrespectful to be like, it was all fake, those people didn't really die, or those people died but it wasn't even for anything. And it's like,
you're kind of erasing someone's family member's horrific
tragedy,
and early death. All right. The next one is Princess Diana's murder. And I've heard so many conspiracies about theories about this. Yeah, I remember when Princess Diana died, I was 10.
I was going to say, I was a little kid. I was not
And I didn't
attention.
really know who Princess Diana was that well. I remember my mom had talked about her a little bit. But I remember because we were actually down in Ohio visiting my aunt and uncle at the time.
Okay.
And my mom and dad were in the car on the way back from somewhere, and my mom came in, she was like, we just heard that Princess Diana died. And I was like, what? Anyways, I was 10.
Wow.
So that, I guess, there are some conspiracy theories apparently. So there was Muhammad Al-Fayed, the father of Dodi Al-Fayed, who was killed along with Diana. Al-Fayed claims that the accident was an assassination by the British intelligence agencies at the request of the royal family. So they were eventually examined and dismissed as baseless about 10 years later. The following year at the inquest, the coroner stated the conspiracy theories have shown to be without any substance. The death was actually just due to negligence by the drunken chauffeur and pursuing paparazzi. But a conspiracy theory also was actually believed by Prince Harry, who said in 2023, just last year, that he believed his mother could still be alive for many years after the crash. He told Anderson Cooper on 60 Minutes that he thought she may have faked her own death and they would be reunited at some point.
What? Oh my gosh, I don't remember that.
Wow. I'm like, what is happening here?
I do think some people struggle with tragedy, like both of those, 9/11 and Diana, are horrific accidents, or not.
And we can't grapple with the reality, so we're like, there has to be something.
Well, and 9/11 wasn't an accident, but you know what I mean. Yeah. It was a thing that happened, and we can't be satisfied by the reality, so we have to fabricate it into something else. Like, no, she's still alive. She's still fine, The amount of conspiracy theories that exist for stuff like that. Like, this person didn't actually die, or this person did die and was replaced with this person. And it's like, what? What? See, what's fascinating to me is that a lot of times conspiracy theories, it's similar to investigative reporting in the fact that, investigative reporting, they give you tidbits. They find a piece of information and they don't know how it fits, so they chase it, And I think they start in the same place, and that's a good thing. There's a healthy curiosity about information that doesn't have an explanation.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that one follows that down a line of evidence, and it's like, here's the explanations. I have evidence for these things, or I have interviews or whatever, and I've figured it out, and then I can report the truth.
Right.
And the other one is like, I don't have anything except I'm going to guess.
Yep.
And if it feels good, then
speculate wildly.
Parks and Rec reference. Ding.
Yeah, it's just an unhealthy way of interacting with information. Like,
and it's getting, I think, more common.
It is very common. Yeah.
Subliminal advertising. That's the next one,
Yeah.
right? Ever been watching a movie and suddenly get the munchies, or sitting on your sofa watching TV and suddenly get the irresistible urge to buy a new car? That's not subliminal. That's advertising.
That's literally how advertising works. Also, the algorithm is reading your eye pattern and seeing whether or not you stopped long enough to stare at that Nissan commercial.
Oh, and see, I don't even think that's conspiracy theory. I feel like that's accepted
that's reality.
truth. Like,
that's reality.
knows.
That's not subliminal. That's not conspiracy. That's true.
Now, back in the 1980s, there was concern over the subliminal messages being spread by evil bands, right? Like the Styx or Judas Priest, etc., etc. They actually got sued for allegedly causing a suicide because of the subliminal messages. Case got dismissed. It had no grounds. It says, subliminal mental processing does exist and can be tested, but just because a person perceives something, a message from an advertisement subconsciously, means very little by itself. And I think that's right on. Like, it's like, I do think, of course, an advertiser is trying to subliminally get you to do something. That's why they use, like, a beautiful woman or something. It's like subliminally you're getting this message, and it's like, yeah, I don't even think it's they're certainly not being what's the word?
You're not discreet. You're
what's
being
discreet? There you go. I was like, what's the opposite of
pretty
blunt?
blatant.
Yeah. They're just, it's like, yeah, no, that definitely is the message they're trying to send to you. I guess I just think we're very good at advertising in the modern world. They're good at making you want things.
Yep.
I don't think anyone's trying to control your mind or anything ridiculous like that. They're not telling you to do things. But yeah, they're trying to sell you stuff, and that's normal in our culture.
Yeah.
All right, what else is there? Moon landing hoax. Do you want to do this one?
I like this one because, so I was reading through it, and so obviously this has been for years because this happened in 1969. But there's so many people that believe that this was all a big conspiracy. Apparently there was a 1976 book published, We Never Went to the Moon, America's $30 billion Swindle. And then a movie in 1978 called Capricorn 1. Even as late as 2001, there was a documentary on Fox called Conspiracy Theory, Did We Land on the Moon? They think the Apollo moon landing program was faked. So all these hoaxes and everything, it's just, it says... there are plenty of debunkings. There's the issue of the hundreds of pounds of moon rocks, and how did they get there? And why would so many people participate in such a weird hoax, especially people around the world? Like, why would that be?
That's one of the, I think, most compelling cases for
like,
most
what's in it for
conspiracy
them?
theories unraveling, because it's like you can't get that many people on the same message. You know what I mean? Like, they're not. It's not going to work. They're not going to convince everyone. Someone's going to slip up or mess up or whatever.
I love this at the end because this just made me
yes,
laugh. It says,
yes.
Many astronauts have been offended by the implication that they faked their accomplishments. In 2002, when the conspiracy theorist Bart Seabrill confronted Buzz Aldrin and called him a coward and a liar for faking the moon landings, the then 72-year-old punched him in the jaw.
Yeah,
like,
Buzz Aldrin.
Yes, this is what I think about
I
you
went
and
to
your
the moon.
stupid conspiracy theories. Right.
I would be pretty mad if it's
oh
like,
my gosh, you're
this is one of the
discrediting all of
most-
my life's hard work. Just lay off, man.
the peak moment of his life, right? Like, he walked on the moon. That's the thing he will be remembered for the rest of history.
And you're gonna sit there and tell me it didn't
and
happen.
you're just belittling it, pretending it didn't even happen. I mean, they were putting their life on the line. People died trying to get up there, you know, like, and he made it, and it's a huge thing, and it's amazing. And so
please read about the next one though. I want you to read about Paul McCartney's death because this one made me giggle.
Paul McCartney's death. All right, so Paul McCartney is not dead as of mid 2022. So this article's a year old. He was still touring. In fact, he's still probably would be if the coronavirus pandemic hadn't canceled so many of his gigs. He gives interviews. He has a website. He occasionally appears in the tabloids. Pretty good for a guy who conspiracy theories think died in 1966.
The proof though, the little nuggets that they're like showing, like I'm like what?
So the Paul is dead conspiracy goes something like this. November 9th, 1966, Paul McCartney got into an argument with the other Beatles, stormed out of the studio, and was promptly decapitated in a car accident.
It sounds so dramatic.
To cover up the whole thing, the band hired a lookalike and a sound-alike.
Why? That's so much more expensive.
Where are you getting at? Where are you getting another human being? And after going through all this trouble, though, the band then took great pains to drop clues in their album covers and lyrics to hint to the public. Yeah, if you went through all the pain, why would you do that? For example, on the cover of the Abbey Road album, all 4 Beatles are photographed striding across a zebra crossing, but only McCartney is barefoot and out of step with the other 3. This must mean something, right? Despite public denials by the man and many, many public appearances by Paul McCartney.
But the fans just couldn't let it be.
Oh, good. That's good. Came together to look for more clues. Didn't he write that one Christmas song way later in the 80s? The Simply Having Wonderful Christmas Time. We wouldn't even have that song. So even if they did replace
this fake Paul McCartney.
The fake Paul McCartney's a pretty talented musician guy also.
It's ridiculous.
Absurd. You want the next one?
Yeah. So I've heard this before. I'm not really sure. I don't know. So apparently John F. Kennedy's assassination, did Lee Harvey Oswald act alone, or was there a second gunman on the grassy knoll? So these are questions of the gateway to the vast arena of conspiracy theories that have spawned endless speculation in hundreds of books. So it doesn't help that Lee Harvey Oswald was murdered in the basement of the Dallas Police headquarters only 2 days after the assassination. The whole thing stunk, people figured. So shadowy culprits have been suggested: Fidel Castro's government, or maybe anti-Castro activists, or organized crime, or the CIA, or Vice President Lyndon Johnson. Or, the thing about presidents, it turns out they have a lot of enemies. So, yeah. So obviously it's just tons of conspiracy theories swirling around that one.
Well, and see, this is one of those where you've got strange facts and we don't have an explanation, and so you can pursue, the Warren Commission report produced by the official investigation found no evidence. It's like they went looking, they tried to figure it out, they didn't find evidence, so you let it go. Mm-hmm. Or you don't have evidence, so you just make stuff up like we were talking about, and it's that's just the wrong way to go about it. Aliens. The next one's aliens.
That's right. Go ahead and read it.
The Roswell crash and cover-up. The one fact that almost all skeptics and believers something crashed into a remote ranch outside of Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. The government at first claimed it was some sort of saucer, then retracted that statement and claimed it was really a weather balloon. Yet the best evidence suggests that it was neither a flying saucer nor a weather balloon, but instead a high-altitude top secret military balloon dubbed Project Mogul. Turns out descriptions of the wreckage first reported by original eyewitnesses very closely matched the photos of Project Mogul's balloons, down to the silvery finish and the strange symbols on the side. The stories about crashed aliens' bodies did not surface until decades later, and in fact no one considered the Roswell crash anything extraterrestrial or even unusual until 30 years later.
Of course not.
Yep. That's fascinating.
That's so ridiculous.
Isn't that interesting, though? It's yes, we don't want to tell you. And that's another thing. There are simply things the government cannot clue us in. It's if we give you all the information, we give someone else who's listening, our enemies, details we don't want them to have. Yeah. A crashed military thing. You know, it's so that kind of stuff happens.
So then speculation just rises.
Yep. Lack of transparency, even when understandable, causes conspiracy theories.
All right, which of these do you want to read next?
I don't know. What jumps at you? The satanic
panic. I don't know. So I can read that one. It was very strange. I can totally see how that would be I had never heard of this, but I can totally see it. Yep. So for years during the 1980s and 90s, America became convinced that the underground network of Satanists was working together to kidnap, torture, and abuse children. None of it was real. But the conspiracy theories destroyed lives and livelihoods.
You know what it reminds me of is the witch trials.
Yeah.
Where was that place? Salem
witch trials, yeah.
Because it's you terrify people with something they're very afraid of.
Yep.
And you point fingers, and as long as you are the one doing the pointing, you can get away with anything.
Yep. So the pinnacle was Geraldo Rivera's infamous NBC special Devil Worship, Exposing Satan's Underground, aired on October 28, 1988. So Rivera relied on self-proclaimed Satanism experts, misleading and inaccurate statistics, crimes with only tenuous links to Satanism, and sensationalized media reports. So it was the most viewed documentary in television history.
See, that's irresponsible. And honestly, you should be held accountable for that. If you spread this misinformation, especially from a reputable news source, you should get in trouble. Like, that should not be allowed, because that's awful.
Yep. In 1992, a report on ritual crime, the FBI agent Kenneth Lanning concluded that the rampant rumors around ritual Satanism were unfounded. Alleged allegations of crimes by Satanists constitute the greatest hoax perpetuated upon the American people in the 20th century.
I think just anything that you can get people to believe, that they kind of a little bit want to believe. They're like,
unknown,
oh, yeah.
But interesting.
Man.
Please read about the next one.
The next one, chemtrails. Oh, man. As airplanes travel, they leave behind them long water condensation trails called contrails. These cloud-like tracks dissipate quickly. But to some conspiracy theories, these condensation trails are more nefarious. The chemtrails conspiracy theory holds that the condensation trails are full of other chemicals, and the scientists and government are seeding into the atmosphere. Why? Pick your reason. And you can just make this stuff up. A 2016 study even debunked it scientifically, finding no evidence of unusual contrails or unexplained contamination in the environment. But the true believers aren't swayed. It's one of those things where it's like, what are they putting in the atmosphere? Well, we're detecting there's nothing different in the atmosphere. What are they, how would those clouds disperse if they had stuff in them? Differently. They're not doing, there's just scientifically we've proven there's nothing in there but water. Birtherism. Oh my gosh. Barack Obama birtherism. That actually, what's really embarrassing is that is how Donald Trump got his start into politics.
Yeah, that's exactly what it says at the end of this.
Yeah, he's one of the leading.
2011 release reduced the number of Americans who believe in birtherism, but many conservative political activists and pundits raised their profiles by advocating for birtherism, and among them, Donald Trump.
Who was at the time the soon-to-be president.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, we are living in a very strange timeline.
We are. We really, really are.
COVID and 5G. You want to talk about this one?
Sure. So, probably no event since 9/11 has spawned more conspiratorial thinking than the COVID-19 pandemic. So apparently Kevin Trudeau, best-selling author of Natural Cures They Don't Want You to Know About, a textbook conspiratorial title if there ever was one, also fed into conspiracies about medical treatment and vaccination. Of the odder conspiracies mixed were long-standing fears of 5G wireless technology with fears about the virus. So according to the COVID 5G conspiracy, electromagnetic frequencies from cell phone towers undermine the immune system, making people sick with COVID. Researchers reported in 2020 in the journal Media International Australia. So another conspiracy theory claims that the COVID-19 vaccinations contained tracking chips that connect to 5G networks so that the government, or possibly billionaire and vaccine philanthropist Bill Gates, can survey everyone's movements.
There was, I remember that was so prevalent at the time when I got the COVID vaccine. People were making jokes. They were like, I just got my vaccine. My cell phone reception is so much better suddenly. Right? Do you remember those jokes?
I do.
That was very popular because that was such a prevalent... We were making fun of it, but it was out there. People were like saying that. All right, you want to do the next one? It's my favorite one.
You can read it. I had never heard this one before.
Birds aren't real. I have heard this before, which is just insane.
I had never heard it before.
When is a conspiracy not a conspiracy? When it's an elaborate piece of performance art. The Birds Aren't Real conspiracy is a movement developed by Peter McIndoe, 23 years old, who started spreading the idea in 2017 until a December 2021 interview where he stayed in character as a true believer, insisting in media interviews and online that birds are not real, but rather they are all surveillance drones made by the U.S. government. Birds Aren't Real has a staff. It organized real-life protests and bought real-life billboards, which it emblazoned. They even had vans that had it on the side.
So weird.
The goal is to parody the misinformation that Gen Z finds itself stewing on. It's a shallow satire of conspiracy. So this guy made up a conspiracy theory for fun and then told everyone, nope, birds are not even real. They are drones. They're all surveillance drones. Every single bird on the planet is a surveillance drone. And he stayed in character for, 4 years. From 2017 till 2021. He talked only about this, and he ran an organization. They did billboards, all this stuff, just to prove how ridiculous people can be.
Wow.
Birds aren't real. Organizers hope the joke will become a force for good in exposing all the ways that misinformation
That's
thrives.
so funny. I'd never heard of that ever.
I see, and I heard it when I didn't know about the guy and the source, but I knew I had heard that, and I laughed at it when it came out.
Jeez, that's funny.
Yeah, it's so good. You want the next one?
The Earth is flat. Flat Earth conspiracy theories first arose in the 1950s and have been given new life in the internet age. They're bizarre. After all, even ancient people knew the Earth was round. The Greeks figured out the planet's circumference in the 3rd century. Since then, astronauts have launched into space and seen the blue marble with their own eyes. But flat earthers don't see beyond their own horizon. The line between Earth and sky looks pretty flat, they figure, and all the rest of the evidence gets tossed out the window. On YouTube's and message boards, flat earthers spend their time inventing weird physics to try to explain how things like gravity and lunar eclipses could possibly work if the Earth were a flat disk. Many are motivated by religious belief or the desire to see the universe as a more caring, human-centered place. Michael Wood, a lecturer in psychology at the University in Winchester in England, told Live Science in 2018.
Just insane.
Wow. I just can't wrap my mind around the fact, like, how do we... But then again, there are probably people who also think the moon landing was fake if they don't believe that our Earth is round. Like, how in the heck... I just have so many questions.
But there's so many more.
Yeah.
Were there any more that you wanted to throw out there?
Oh, I thought the one that was the fan theories one was ridiculous.
Yep.
Like,
let's do it.
So it says weirdest of these theories play on the fact that fans know the celebrities they see on their screens are filtered, but the sheen of unreality may make it easier to believe. For example, Avril Lavigne is dead and has been since 2003 when her recording company replaced her with a body double. It's dumb, said Lavigne, who is very much alive in 2019. So apparently it happened with a different actor, right? Like, why are people going to such lengths to pretend someone's alive or to kill someone off and then replace them?
Do you remember the Taylor Swift conspiracy theories that we did? They were like, she has a body double, and it's like, it's just a lady who looks like her. Like,
why? Says celebrities have reported conspiracies affect their real lives. A group of One Direction fans called Larry's spent years insisting that now former bandmates Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson were a secret couple, which affected the pair's real friendship. It created this atmosphere between the two of us where everyone was looking into everything we did. It took the vibe you get off anyone. So, like, tore them apart as friends. I'm like, this is so bizarre. Like, why? You have way too much time on your hands, people. Just do something else. Have a better hobby.
It's seriously though, it's just ridiculous, and I think it's just people with too much time on their hands and an obsession complex with these people. It's like they're thinking about them all the time, and it's like I just have to invent goofy things. All right, and I mean, there's so many more we didn't even touch about.
Please read about how the Denver airport is the home of the Illuminati,
and the government wants us to eat bugs, and the
reptiles are ruling the government.
Run the government.
This is so bizarre. It gets weirder as you go down.
I'll put the link to the article in the show notes because it's just absurd. But thank you, friends, for joining us for this ridiculous dive into this hilarious topic. We're glad you stuck with it. If you want to support us, head over to Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts. Hit up, give us a rating, like us, review, tell your friends. That's how it spreads. It's really just a word of mouth thing. And we've actually been getting a bunch of downloads lately. Like there was one day where we got like a fresh 100 extra downloads that I was not expecting. And I was like, whoa, look at all that.
That's cool.
It's just fun. So if it's new listeners, welcome. We're so glad you guys are here. And if it's just old friends coming back, that's awesome too. So are you ready to send us out with the mom joke of the week?
Yes. So this joke actually comes to us courtesy of the 6-year-old who thought of this as he was falling asleep a couple nights ago and had to excitedly tell us when he woke up the next morning. So what do you call a duck that delivers letters?
I don't know.
A mailard. He was very proud of it, so enjoy.
I love it. Thanks, Amos. Bye.
Bye.